Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. Welcome to the show. It's not any good, friends, but you know what? We're going all the way from Broadway to Main Street. That's why this is a special episode. It's rare that we get a Broadway star turned residential real estate agent, turned over $3 billion sold, and we get him on our hot seat. Friends, I'm speaking about none other than David Gunderman. He is going to tell us exactly how he and his team run a relationship-based business and the exact listing value that they provide in one of the most competitive luxury markets in the United States, the San Francisco Bay. Friends, sit back and buckle up. This is David Gunderman. David, how are you, sir?
I can't believe I get to hang out with you today. I'm so lucky. Thank you.
The luck is all ours. We're so grateful that you're here. I ask everybody the same question to begin. David, how did you come into the greatest industry in the world?
I love the way you say that. Okay, I grew up in Los Angeles, was a total theater kid, went to UCLA to study theater, was freaking out about being in theater, was going to go to law school, and then got cast in a Broadway show out of an LA audition. So I thought I'm going to go do that and experience that. While I was in that show, I got cast in another show.
Okay, just stop it for a second, because you say it so nonchalant, but two questions then. Number, what were you concerned about? Because you say I was concerned and I was thinking of maybe going to law school. What was the fear that you had?
I just was afraid that it would be too much of a struggle.
To finding the roles and making the money part.
Being in the arts and just not making a living or having just a lack of stability in my life, it was scaring me. I was able to work professionally while I was at UCLA, and I just sort of saw both these lives that were rich with creativity, but just really struggled for stability. I was trying to weigh them out in my mind, and I was hedging, and I thought, okay, well, I'll go to law school and I'll play it safe. Then the arts sort of opened up for me, so I took that ride.
What do you learn on Broadway? If you look back on it, what's the one thing that serves you today?
In terms of real estate, what serves me in real estate's a differentiation game. And I tell our team this all this time, which is that you go into a listing appointment or an appointment to meet a client, and they may be interviewing one or two people, and you have completely unique stories. That's a piece of cake. What's hard is being in a room or on a stage with 30 people who look and sound exactly like you, and they get to pick one. That's a harder game. So I think the people who go into the arts, they learn so much about entrepreneurship. They learn so much about differentiation. You have to be so self-aware. You have to know what you have that demonstrates or puts forth an X factor that's going to catch someone's attention, their mind, their heart. If you can thicken your skin and get through that and succeed, I think there's a lot of transferable skills there.
I love that. So the dream is in Los Angeles. It brings you to New York. You're on Broadway. What happens next?
10 years go by. I just kept working. I was all over the country working in regional theaters and national tours, and I was a steadily working actor, which meant that on a good year, I was making, $30,000.
Really?
I mean, that's a good year. Like, I know, so year was 20, and a really good year was like 40 or 45. But it's really hard. It's a hard life. I was able to buy a studio apartment in New York from my work, which was really great back in the 90s when the markets were down. And that was my first foray into real estate and how it really changed my life financially, how it gave me some stability. But for me as a person, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I'm an ambitious person. And it was really hard for me to be in a career where you sort of get some steam going and A leads to B to C to D, and then you're back at A again. And A, B, C, D, E, I'm back at A again. And that's sort of like always sort of going back and having to, ask for my next job was wearing me down around the time I turned 30.
So you struggled for your art. By the way, I can relate to this because I always say if I get out of real estate, I'm going to go after my plan B, which of course is modeling. But I'm so afraid, David, that once I'll kill at that. But I'll chase that dream and I'll live that life. So you have this epiphany. You're now 30.
Yeah.
You're an old man. What happens next?
Old man. And also, just to be totally honest, my type was sort of juvenile. It was youthful. And I was getting older. And I thought, this might be a good time to try something new. So I go out to the Bay Area for a month to see what it feels like. And I never leave. And that honestly, and you'll see this in so many people. I see it with one of our team members, Hans and Kristen. They're Olympic rowers, and there's these careers that sort of can end when you're young. I met my current husband partner when I was on a national tour of a Broadway show when I was going through the Bay Area. And that sort of set something off for me. Like this felt like a really significant relationship to me. And Andrew was a dancer. He danced with American Ballet Theater in his youth. Like there's these careers that you go so deep into that they become a core part of your identity. And when they end, you have this identity crisis. So I just went through this, year and a half period in the Bay Area where I was like, what can I do now? And of course you're 30 and you have no perspective and you think, my youth's over and it's all too late. And, there's just all these horrible mind games you play with yourself. And I end up working for a magazine for about a year and a half, a magazine called The Industry Standard, which was reporting on the first round of the internet economy. It was a huge magazine. It was the biggest ad revenue producing magazine in the country for a period of time. We joked that the first anniversary party, we rented the City Hall of San Francisco and had oyster bars and just crazy fireworks. It was insane. And the second anniversary, we were drinking, canned soda in the lobby because the dot bust was happening and everything was imploding. So while I was working at that magazine, Andrew and I sold my studio apartment. We cobbled together little bits of money and put a down payment on a modest home in Alameda, California. And then all the layoffs hit. And we were also adopting kids. We were in the queue to adopt our kids through the foster care system. And I found myself sitting in this $417,000 home I didn't know how we were going to afford. I was looking around for any marketing job I could find. Our real estate agent who'd helped us was a really terrific human being, which sort of surprised me because I had a low opinion of real estate and real estate agents. And I literally went into real estate as a stopgap. I was just waiting for the first marketing job to come up. And I came into it sort of with a low expectation, a negative opinion about the industry, and stumbled into the richest, most incredible career opportunity of my life. And it completely changed our lives. It completely changed our families' lives. Great things just rolled out of that.
Well, so now we're 25 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Your team and you've sold over $3 billion worth of real estate, which is just defies the way that I even think about math. Congratulations on the success. What's the thing that y'all do so well that's driven this?
I'd say more than anything, I think Andrew, who joined me 2 years into the career, and I think we're really good at human interactions. I think we're really good at relating to people.
Perfect. Friends, you know what time it is. If you listen to this show, and I know you do, you know we are about to give you a model. We're going to tell you exactly how to succeed in a relationship-driven business. Now, this is often discussed, but very, very, very rarely studied to the detail that we're going to go into it. You don't have to take the notes. So if you're bombing down the freeway right now, you're in the Tesla, you're going 110, first of all, both hands, 10 and 2, and I get that. I'm taking the notes. I got the pen in hand. If you don't get the notes, and they come out every Thursday, sign up at MREAnotes.com. Then they get emailed to you as a PDF. So, David, tell me exactly how to be in a relationship-driven business.
I believe this business, I tell our team this all the time, is a three-legged stool. The first leg for me is you have to be able to instill trust instantly. You have to be able to demonstrate expertise. That's the second leg. And the third leg is I think you have to have some kind of charisma, some kind of X factor, some sort of self-awareness, something that engages people.
I love that. So I have to instill trust, I have to be able to show expertise, and I have to have some charisma. Start on trust. What does that word mean to you, and how do I instill it in others?
Well, I think you have to be trustworthy. Trust has to be in your DNA. And when I went into this business, I'm not a solicitous person, Jason. I came into this business expecting that there were behaviors I would have to perform that were not that didn't sit well on my personality. And these are behaviors that work for so many people. No judgment about these at all. There's a lot of great things that you can do by knocking on doors, do all sorts of things. I cannot be solicitous. It's just not who I am. So my business has been built 100% on just taking care of people. And I know this has become a bit of a cliche, but for me, 25 years ago, it was a little bit radical, which is I'm not in a sales profession. I'm in an advocacy. I'm in negotiation. I'm in strategy. I am not in sales. We never even use the word sales with our team. We are just taking great care of people using all the sort of expertise we have and the creativity we have to move the needle on their behalf. So when I discovered that by being as selfless as I could possibly be, by just taking care of others and never worrying about a transaction, that's very appealing to people. In fact, it can be wildly differentiating because they sort of expect the worst from salespeople sometimes. And when they suddenly find themselves in a room with someone, when we met buyers 25 years ago, I said, look, you can fall in love with the house on your own. I'm never going to tell you what I like about a house. I'm going to tell you everything I hate about it. I'm going to be your best friend who says, are you sure you want to date that person? Because I want to make sure that you don't have any regret. And they're immediately like, wait, what? You're a real estate agent? You're saying what to me? And you show up for people. I mean, every time there's anything that feels uncomfortable, there's moments, especially in the beginning of your career, where you have these sorts of tests of your value system and you discover that there's some little bit of information that floats into your knowledge base. You think, oh, shoot, I'm 3 days from close of escrow. And if I reveal this, the whole thing could implode and probably no one would ever know. And you just have to say, oh, no, that's not who I am. I reveal this and we let the chips fall where they may because I'm here to be in service to this person. And every time you choose the person over the transaction, it hits them in their solar plexus. And that's the relationship where they're going to go out in the world and tell all their friends and family, you got to use this person. This person is truly authentic. They're really out for your best interest.
I love that. I think trust is wildly important. Then you go on to expertise, which is different than trust because you have to be able to demonstrate not just that you're trustworthy, but that you have the competency to actually help people in the challenge they're in. How do you go about showing expertise?
Expertise is my favorite category. And I had a slow start to this profession because I am not good. I can't wing things. I have to know what the heck I'm talking about. And as soon as I do know what I'm talking about, I'm very good at articulating it and being confident in articulation. And I want to maybe take this into a listing conversation sort of dynamic here. So there's a lot of questions that people ask at listing appointments where I think agents can really get themselves backed into a corner. And I think that's one of the places that I really, really love exploring. Like, for instance, someone will often say to you, what do you think my house is worth? And of course, I think if you are too quick to answer that question, you can just sort of get boxed in. And so what we say a lot in those conversations are a few things is we'll say to people like, I want to answer your question and I'm going to get to the answer of your question. And first of all, there's a lot of things that we're going to, change the answer that I don't know yet. I don't know the condition of your house. We haven't had inspections. The market's dynamic. Respectfully, you would never ask your financial advisor what their Apple stock's going to be worth in 2 months, because you'd think that was an absurd question because markets are dynamic. So I can't tell you what the future holds. I can only sit where we are. And there's still a lot of information I'm lacking, but I want you to think about not who's going to give you the answer you want, but who's thinking in the ways that you want someone to think. Who's got the strategic and creative and business acumen to make sure we've created fertile soil for the best possible outcome. That's the conversation I'm really excited to have with you, and I want to show you how that is. But I want you to know all the things that are going to go into this value assessment, and we just sort of talk about all the moving parts. So instead of giving them an answer, you're showing them the way you think. That's a better conversation to be having. And consumers are waiting for real estate agents to overpromise, to do all these sorts of things. And if you don't sort of sit in the trap of what their stereotype is of the person they're sitting in the room with, they're more apt to sort of lean and go like, who is this person? I'm not getting the answer I was expecting. And I think that's more interesting to people.
I think that's spot on. And it sounds like the way you demonstrate expertise is by teaching them how to think about the questions that they have.
Yeah. And the better example is like, how are you going to price my home? Like, that's a question. And so I think a lot of people would say like, oh, I'd price it here. Well, that's not the answer. I want you to know that we're not going to price your home for a month and a half or so. And here are the factors that are going to go into that. Obviously, we're going to look at the actives and the solds and the pendings, and I'm going to leverage my relationships to find out what the pendings are pending for and all those sorts of things. But price is not a reflection of outcome. It is a positioning exercise. So how are we going to position you against all of your competition is the question I want to answer for you if you're willing to let me do that. And that's going to be a game time decision. And all these sorts of factors are going to come into this so that we can just really find the sweet spot. We're going to look at consumer behavior. We're going to look at, in terms of the pending prices, I'm going to call these agents and find out, like, your pending, like, how much activity you get, how many disclosure, but how many people showed up at your open house? Like, how did that price positioning operate in this moment in time? How did it move the needle? And these are the kinds of questions we're going to ask so that I can give you the best advice I can so that you can make a decision, because you're the decider and I'm the advisor and I know my place here. You're going to make all the decisions, but I'm going to give you the best advice I can possibly give you for you to make the best possible decision. And that's the conversation we have. We don't just say, like, oh, your house is worth, $800,000. And then you're boxed in. I mean, there's so many times you learn this early in your career where you say something and then it just comes back to haunt you, because these markets are dynamic and things change and people hold you to what they say. It builds this sort of expectation that can really be corrosive to your relationship, down the road. So don't get into rigid answers. Get into, like, how I'm going to show up for you.
What does charisma mean? Because you say the third step is that you have to have some charisma or swagger, as they say, the kids say. The kids say swagger, by the way, David. What does that mean?
I think it means authenticity. I think it means knowing who you are and showing up in your body and in a way that is authentic. One of the things that I talk about a lot is I want to, in all assets of being, I hope this resonates, I want to ring the bell of truth. I want people to know that they're in the room with somebody authentic. That's where X Factor can go all over the place. I think people approach this industry a little too cautiously sometimes. There was a woman I met who was coming up from down south, and she was a huge animal rights activist. Like, that was her passion. And her broker down south had said, don't be political, don't be too controversial, you don't know who you'd meet. And I just said, oh my gosh, no, let it flow, be who you are. Who doesn't love an animal rights activist? And I mean, if anybody does, if somebody thinks that's weird, you don't want to work with them anyway. I just think people should sit in what they believe. I think people want to be in the room with people who stand for something and believe in something and have passion. I worry that too many people are trying to be too many things for too many people. Just be who you are and be proud and be authentic and come into the room with confidence. And that's hard for a lot of people. Confidence is a hard thing to bake into your being, to learn, to have, to exist within. I just want everyone to be self-aware and authentic and confident. And I think people are attracted to that.
I think that's spot on and 100% right. So I understand these three pillars, because in order to go out and influence people, I have to stand for something. Gary once told me, if you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything. This is sort of my values and then how I go and demonstrate it. How do you then turn this idea into this repeat and referral juggernaut? Meaning, what are the touches you're making? How does the business show up at the front door? How have you built this community?
The relationships we build are deep. They're really deep. And I think it's because one of the things I personally, this is me, love about this business is that you are engaging with someone in a moment of really deep transition in most cases. And there's a lot of emotion in the room. Someone has died. There's a divorce. Even if there's a job transfer, their kids are having to shift schools and make a new set of friends. There's a lot of vulnerability. And I often say to our team, if you go on a listing appointment and you're walking through someone's house, you are in the inner sanctum of their id, if I can be so bold. All around you are books and yearbooks and pieces of art and things their kids. You are in a world of them exposing themselves to you. If you can't find points of connection there between your life and their life, you're missing something. You're just living inside their world. They are opening the book to you. And, life is full of struggle. Every life has struggle. And these moments of vulnerability that people are in these transitions is an opportunity to have really rich conversation with people and to really be real with them. And we get really real with people and we find ways to support them emotionally and make sure they understand that we have deep empathy and that we are there to support them for both their financial and their emotional well-being in this moment that they're in. And that connection matters to them. And it somehow it makes them very sticky because they know that they've experienced something that they weren't expecting.
I love that. So your market is the East Bay. I've been there. and it's a luxury market. I know it's a luxury market because I stayed in a hotel and they gave me slippers. So I know luxury, David, when I see it.
Not every place gives you slippers around here.
Not every place. So your business is built on a luxury marketplace. So I want to ask, number one, what is a luxury experience? And how do you think about delivering it?
I'm going to say this. There is a big luxury market here, but there's also a good amount of poverty here too. And one of the values that we have is that we represent people and not price points. So when we can get into helping somebody who is struggling financially, that is really gratifying for us. And I know we've lost some of the luxury market because our website shows a breadth of real estate, but that has never been our drive. We're here to serve people and we're not market segmented.
Man, I love your mission. I love that you just said that. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, and thank you for living that. When you do have to provide, because by the way, Gary Keller once told me, he said, Jason, it isn't about luxury real estate. It's about providing every single person you serve a luxury experience, regardless of their price point. How do you think about that, and how do you do it? What is a luxury experience?
I mean, what our team does for people is so rich. We do so much for people. We do these design reviews on every home, regardless of price point. I have 3.5 listing specialists in my employ.
Okay, wait a second. Because here's the thing. Everybody out there that takes listings, their ears just perked up. They're thinking, okay, actually take me through it. Because you say, well, we do all these things and we have all these people. I want you to take me through. I'm a seller and I want the full package. What are the things that you do for them? What's number one?
Well, the first thing we do once they've decided to work with us is we show up with at least one listing specialist, one of our listing specialists who sort of operate like project managers. Several of our vendors, hopefully we've been to the homes. We have a sense of what the project will be, our vendors, and we show up and we walk the property for 45 minutes and we tell them within 7 days of that meeting, they're going to be presented with a proposed scope of work, a budget for that scope of work, and a proposed timeline. And all of this is for them to decide whether we do this or not. But we're not going to recommend anything to them that we don't believe will monetize. So we will have already pushed this through the lens. If we don't think it's going to monetize, it's not going to be on our list.
I'm jumping in. That is so good. I'm not going to keep you long, but this idea that him and his team exist so they can help people flip their home, so they can maximize their potential profit is a really big idea. If someone was to say to you, why do you exist as a seller's agent? You might stutter and stammer and say, well, to make it easier or to help people move when they want to or help them on their timelines or make sure that there's less headache. You could go on and on. He sums it up in a sentence. We help people flip their house so they can maximize the amount of money that they make. I love that idea. When you think about the fact that professional flippers build profit margins in, and the reason and the way that they do it is because number one, they want to make more money. And number two, they simply give a better experience to the end user and make the homes look fantastic. It makes all the sense in the world that would be a ton of listing value to bring to your clients. Friends, give this a thought. Is he not right? Isn't that your goal also every time you list a house? And if it isn't, shouldn't it be? Okay, let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to number two. In your experience, what does the average house need? Because you say we show up with our vendors. Who are you showing up with? And on average, how much are they spending to get their homes ready for market?
Well, we all know that flippers can build margin in homes. Flipping is a real profession, and what we aim to do is help people flip their own homes. I don't want anyone else to build the margin off of their hard-earned home. Then I want them to benefit from it more than anything. So we're going to help them flip their own home and make sure that since this is a big moment in their lives, we're going to get every dollar out of this we possibly can for them.
That is brilliant. I don't know that I've heard that before. I want to help people flip their own home to maximize the money that they get out of it.
Yeah.
That's genius. Okay, so you come to the house, you walk through with the vendors, then in a 7-day period, you're going to present them with options and a full scope of work. What happens next?
Whatever amount of it they sign off on, and usually they sign off on the whole thing. And to answer your question, here in the Bay Area, those budgets are usually like $40,000, $50,000, and they usually yield $150,000 to $300,000. It's a presentation sensitive market where we are. Every market is presentation sensitive. Human nature is human nature, and we are attracted to things that are shiny and pretty and give us a sense of well-being and a sense of lifestyle.
Now, who pays, let's just say it's $50,000. Number one, who pays the $50,000? And is it paid at closing, or are they writing a check for the work?
It's paid at closing. There are services that can help you do that. We end up through our own corporation paying for it out of pocket, fronting the money and being reimbursed at no markup whatsoever. No markup from the vendors, no interest rate on the money, which is a big differentiator in our market. Agents who are trying to do what I'm trying to do are employing third-party vendors who upcharge about 20% on this stuff. So we save them a lot of money doing it in-house.
Wow. Okay, so now it's time to have the work done. I'm not a general contractor. I've had work done at my home before, and it's been a nightmare. Do you actually help manage that process?
We do. And we actually tell people it's a fraught experience. It can be. One of the ways to sort of contextualize it for people is I say, if you were trying to do this scope of work in 5 weeks, you can imagine how difficult it would be to arrange all of the vendors and make this go smoothly. We talk about the fact that it's an inherently messy process and to please have patience with us, because it is an inherently messy process. And the hardest thing is when people start to, micromanage or other things. And if we just sort of build enough trust, enough confidence in our team, then they can back off and then things will flow. And usually, even if there is stress, by the time they see the finished product or the photographs, all the stress just melts away. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what you pulled off here.
I love that. Okay, so now the work is complete. What happens next?
Well, I want to tell you one other little secret sauce here that may be surprising to other real estate practitioners is you typically drive towards staging because staging is the icing on the cake and staging is what gets you the photographs and it's what gets you all the emotion in the photographs. It gives you scale and proportion and lifestyle, all those things that can sort of tease what I would describe as the irrational mind, which is what we're going for. When you're a seller, you want the price to go as high as you possibly can. So the more ballast you get in emotion, the more that price will go up. What we do in terms of presentation is not safe. I see so many people in our industry going for sort of beige and neutrals and safe. And I often sort of describe that irreverently as, Radisson hotel lobby furniture. Like, come on, people. Like, this is an opportunity to really put some zip in here. And people are, especially a younger generation, is looking at photos on a very small screen in their hand, and something in that photo has to pop out at them. And if it's a photo that they expect, it's going to wash right over them. If it's something's in there that is surprising, that microsecond they're going to engage. So what we do in terms of presentation is bold and creative. It is not neutral and safe. And that's, I think, one of our secret sauces is this team of people are highly creative. And staging is not meant to be a representative or literal representation of how to live in that house. We say it is an invitation to dream. So if we can get them to come in there and just kind of see something, people live busy lives. Most people don't know how to create something fantastic. But when they walk into it, they feel something and they want to relate to it. They want it. They want it. They want it in their lives. They want to feel that thing that feels special. And if we can market to that and present in a way that makes something special, that gives it an X factor, I see it. We work with different stagers on different properties. Not every stager is right for every property, but you see the sort of safe staging. You can see the views just sort of flat. Whenever we use somebody who's bold and more creative, the views just go up, up, up.
I don't know about you out there in the real estate multiverse, but I literally just got so depressed about my house. I'm like listening to you describe the way that you want to feel when you walk in, and I'm like, I got to go back to my place. I want what you just described, man.
We all live like that, though. This is just a moment. We should not try to live like this. It's silly. Like, even when you buy a house, the cat throws up in the corner. It's like, that's life. The kids, like, it's a mess. That's how we all really live. But our job as marketers is to make sure that there's a moment that someone dreams, because if they're dreaming, they're going to spend more.
I love that. So the listing specialist comes out. We have the vendors with us. 7 days later, we give them the scope of work. They have all the choices that they're making, and the decisions are all theirs. Yeah. Once they do the work, then this home is staged and it looks beautiful. What happens next?
What happens next is we photograph. And photography is your lens into all this hard work. And photography is not something anyone should take lightly. It is a major creative decision. Picking the hero image, making sure it's telling the richest, most complex story of the amenities and the characteristics of this property that are most likely to appeal to the broadest audience. getting the photos back and retaking them if we need because they're not good enough, like just having a standard on photos, but then also taking those photos and understanding, and I think this is sort of a theater background for me, but understanding that just in the curation of these photos, like in the sequencing, you're telling a story, you're cutting a short movie, you're taking somebody's emotion through a story. You've got to know how to, because the biggest marketing platform you have is your multiple listing service and how it goes out to Zillow and Trulia and Redfin and all those places. That's the lion's share of your marketing. So all you can control there is your copy, which probably no one's reading much of, but what you're controlling is your visuals. So if your visuals are as good as they can be, not only will it affect the experience and the engagement with buyers, but it also presents to all your potential listings in the world who are looking for the best agent they can, how you market properties. So please don't try to save money in photography.
I'm selling a property right now in a building, and I'm actively watching, it was an investment. The other unit I'm up against, they took the photos and you can see them in the mirror. David, you can see them in the bathroom mirror. I've never felt so good about my chances. So I love this. So after you get the photos done and there's a deference paid to getting the right ones, what happens next? Is it time to go on the market?
Then you have this opportunity. And I want to say, when I talk to people on a listing, I tell them there's 4 things that will affect their outcome more than anything. Number 1, it's your timing and the advice you're going to get around that timing from your professional. It's your pricing and the advice you're going to get around how to price your property. It's your presentation and the advice you're going to get around your presentation and the execution of that presentation. But more than anything, it's who you hire. That's number 4. And when I say who you hire, I want you to think about something that I describe as conversational excellence. Because throughout the time that we launch this property until you're done, our phone's going to ring. People are going to walk into an open house. Every single interaction that we have with a human being that has shown any engagement in your property is an opportunity to enhance your outcome or dilute your outcome. And what I see a lot of in our industry when I call other agents is sometimes people are curt or dismissive or unavailable. Sometimes the open houses are treated like an opportunity for agents to get more business, and they're just too excited to try to find out if these people have agents or not. Like, these are not things that help the seller get the most money. So, like, what are we going to do in every single conversation to make sure we figure out who we're in the room with and how to maximize that opportunity? Who we're on the phone with, who we're texting with. How do I maximize this opportunity? Because every one of those engagements can either enhance your outcome or dilute your outcome. And I want you to choose the agent that you think has the conversational acumen, the business acumen, the knowledge about human interactions, human psychology, to push the needle forward and not backwards, because that's a really precious moment that needs the proper engagement.
I love that. So now the home is on the market and now people want to see it. Do you all attend the showings or do you not?
No, we're a lockbox place. There's times when we do sometimes attend showings, but mostly people go show properties on their own. So we run over there and turn the lights on and off if need be and make sure the pillows are all fluff if that's important or whatever. It's all case by case, but no, we don't show every house.
And then how do you keep the seller in touch? Because, there was a minute there where average days on market was 11 minutes. And so it was really easy. But now we're starting to see average days on market tick up a little bit. How do you keep them in the game and up to date on what's happening with their listing?
Just over communicate. Tell them everything that's happening. Give them all the nuance. Demonstrate to them how you're handling the nuance. Because if you're doing it right or you're being creative or smart about it and you show them, like you take a screen text of a text and you throw it over to them, you're just showing them like, I know what I'm doing here. It's all going well. Or it's not going well, but I'm handling it as best I can. If you are constantly taking a moment to give them everything that's going on and how you're handling it, and if you're handling it in a way that they're apt to think, wow, that's really being well handled, you become a great partner. And if things aren't going well, you become somewhat blameless. Like, it's really important to you don't get fired if they see the effort and they see that you're handling things well. And also just staying, I've heard other people talk about this, but it's so important, staying in partnership. Like, if something's wrong, find that common enemy. Always operate from the pronoun we. and that we're in this together, and these are the things charging at us. And that dynamic, that triangulation, and making sure that enemy is known and identified and outside of us, and that we're in this together, is something that is very powerful to maintain that partnership through hard times.
Spot on. All right, I want to switch gears. I want to take you back to ancient Athens. Now, if we go, okay.
All right, let's go.
If we go all the way back, you're going to find a young man named Epicurus, and he bought a villa in downtown Athens, and he invited people over to his garden, and in very small groups, he talked about the secrets of life in depth. We would like you to join us in our garden. Will you join us?
Of course. How delightful.
Everyone in the audience wants to know, and it's the number one question we get about y'all. Andrew was a professional ballet dancer.
Yes.
How are his feet today? Is it a mess? Is it disgusting?
Oh, the knees have been replaced. The feet are gnarly.
I knew it. I knew it. This makes my day. And this is what we've been talking about in back rooms about Andrew's feet for years now.
And I'm being authentic. Come on now. We're going deep.
He's going to love this episode, I promise. All right, that was number one. Number two, how many children have you all adopted?
2.
And as a parent, I know that there are the most incredible highs and absolute depths that you can't explain to anybody else. As you've been living through it, because you're never done, what are the one or two things that you've learned? Because adopting takes a certain kind of heart. Doing it twice is very special. As you look back on the journey so far, what would you tell so many of our audience members are raising people?
My experience of parenting is wrapped up in adoption. And I am an adoptee myself. I was adopted at birth as well. And what I've learned, what I believe to be true, and I'm not sure if this is where you want to take this or not, but I think we're really pretty hardwired when we're born. I met my birth mother when I was about 30 years old. I had a totally good childhood. But, I was a very different person than the family I was raised in, and I didn't think anything about it. I sort of thought I was my own sort of self-defined, self-actualized person. And I met my birth mother at about age 30 and realized, oh my gosh, I'm just you. And it's sort of shocking. Like, there's nurture and nature, but I think nature's more powerful than a lot of people realize. And I see that in my own kids too. Like, there are triumphs and there's failures. And I have to check myself from taking credit or blame for a lot of these things because they're just who they are. I think we all sort of are born with these triggers, and it's our values that sort of set the triggers off or don't. And I think you can really instill values in people. And I think that's about it. I think you're just keeping them safe and moving them forward. And I know that what we've provided our family, our kids, is a very happy place. We're honest. We're there for each other. My greatest value in life I learned from my father, which is showing up for people. And my kids show up for us. They show up for each other. Like, that's the thing for me, is that you just show up for people. And I don't know, parenting has been the most... nothing new here, but the most profound and humbling experience of my life. I love how it took me out of myself and put self-care into the back seat and put myself into service for others, people for 20 some odd years ongoing. What a rich and brilliant experience that I'm so glad I didn't miss.
It's a brilliant answer. You have a spouse business partner. And so many in residential real estate do.
Yeah.
And we're starting to actually, interestingly, we're going to have a commercial real estate agent, husband and wife team. I'm excited about that because you're starting to see that.
Yeah.
And you haven't killed each other,
yeah,
which is unbelievable to me. So walk me through, looking back on it, what's the one thing? How do you leave it at the office? What's the one thing about thriving in a spouse business relationship?
You don't always leave at the office, and that's annoying. You get a rare date night and you talk about business, and you're like, I gotta stop doing this. But I think there's partners that would be good business partners and partners that aren't. And we were lucky that we were. I'm a doer. He's a thinker. Like, there was a lot of ways that we completed each other that was really good in real estate. We started to work very instinctually. While building this business, we had just adopted these kids. So the first few years of this were awful. It was awful. Awful. Like, you're just trying to survive. You're clawing your way to bed at night. Staging houses out of the art we pulled off our walls, out of the back of our Saturns. Just hard times. You just struggle through. I will say adopting kids and going to business together threw us right into couples therapy, which was really important because all the mismatches, all the ways we shaped each other just came flying to the surface. Fortunately, we had a terrific therapist and great conversations, and we started talking about the Enneagram and understanding one another, and we just ironed out those wrinkles, and it's been phenomenal. I just can't imagine doing it without him, because there was so much divide and conquer that got us where we are today. And I don't know how. I'll offer this too, which is that when I first started in real estate 2 years before Andrew, he would say to me, he often jokes about this, he'd say to me at the end of the day, when I'm taking a call at 8:30 and there's a kid crying in the other room, and he'd say, "Can't you control your clients? Can't you build boundaries?" And then as soon as he joined the industry, he said, "I'm really sorry. I was so out of line. Like, I totally get it now." And that's symbolic of how we stopped chafing and we started to be aligned with one another. We were in this together. And that really eased the experience and made it all flow forward. I'm a little heady. He's a little more in his heart. We go on listing appointments, and I learned, don't get into the data and the process. Let Andrew connect. Let him connect, because he connects deeply with people. And there was those kinds of just dynamics that helped us thrive, is that we sort of knew when to let that person lead and when to sit back, when to be a good cop, bad cop. It's been fun because it worked.
So good. As you look up today, last question for me. As you look up today, y'all built something from very, very little. I mean, this is a something from nothing story. And you sit today, you got plenty of money. You can pretty much live within reason wherever you want. You can go on vacation pretty much however you want. You can drive within reason whatever you want. And yet, I was a guest at your team meeting not long ago, and I'm watching y'all in there with your sleeves up, hugging people and working with these team members. Why aren't you on a beach somewhere? What are you still doing this for?
I'm a 3. I just enjoy it too much. It's too much fun. I can't imagine not doing this right now. Andrew is more retired. He's more semi-retired, and he has more of personality of painting and being sedentary and being a hermit. I enjoy having impact. I enjoy doing everything I can to try to enhance people's lives. I enjoy the puzzle of all these things, the mess of it. I love this industry. I had no idea going into this industry how dynamic it was, how it's constant adaptation, constantly a new asteroid coming to you that you have to fend off. It's been thrilling. I just had no idea when I went into this how fulfilling this would be, how rich it would be in terms of working my mind and my heart. I just can't give it up. I can't give it up.
Well, we don't want you to give it up. I love the answer. Put simply, for the love of real estate. I think that you embody that idea, and you talk about it like a warrior poet, and it connects with me so deeply. Man, I love you. I love what your mission is, and I love what you're doing for this industry. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right back at you, Jason. You're one of my idols in this industry. You are just such a gorgeous human being, and to spend this time with you is what a privilege, what an honor. Thank you.
As you're listening, do you envision him in top hat and tails, tap dancing across a stage on Broadway? I can see it in my mind. I love this guy. I love the way that he wakes up in the morning thinking about his community. I love the way that he thinks about adding value to his clients. I go all the way back to the beginning of the episode and think about his 3 pillars of trust, expertise, and charisma. And he nails it, because if someone doesn't trust that you have their best interest at heart, then there's absolutely no basis to have a relationship as a fiduciary. Then expertise. If you don't actually know how to help a seller get the most amount of money for their house in the time frame that works for them with the least amount of headaches, if you don't have that expertise, then how do you go add value as a seller's agent? Same as the buyer side. You have to be the expert, and then charisma, or as the kids call it today, swagger. Now, it's really difficult to teach someone how to be charismatic. So instead of teaching you how to do it, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. When you leave the room, friends, what is it that your client remembers about you? After a transaction, what is it that they tell their friends and family about you? If you immediately don't know the answer, then let me let you in on a secret. You might not be as charismatic as you think. You see, charisma is all about how you are seen and how you are remembered. So whether you're going to do it, and we've seen some agents, they have a signature color. I can think of Catherine in Miami. She's going to wear teal. I can think of someone else who only wears pink. That makes them charismatic. When I interview David, he's wearing these bright blue glasses. I'm going to remember them. I can remember them right now as I'm doing this. And the way that he articulates how he feels about the industry, those are things that I'm going to remember about him. That's what makes him charismatic. So again, what makes you charismatic? What do people think about as soon as you walk away, and what do they tell their friends and family about you? Figure that out. And so when you add this all up, it's a simple 3-pillar plan. Trust, I gotta be trusted. Expertise, I gotta have it and then be able to demonstrate it. And then charisma, I have to be memorable. It's just that easy. Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week, and every week we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points in the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning. You must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.